So, just trying this out on my new tablet thing. Colour isn't perfect. I haven't used proper lights or anything. Just want to see how it works because it wouldn't let me go live for quite a while. It was just putting a little glove on there. It was just kept telling me to turn my screen over and over and over again. So I'm going to try going live on this channel, and then I'm going to try going live on my main channel. So I can't actually check the chat or see how many people are even watching because it looks all weird and everything. And so I'll open up my other phone to go to the chat in a minute. And if you could let me know if there's too much ambient noise, because I'm just doing this a little bit randomly from my bedroom. So I was going to go through some of my tarot cards. So I made a little bit of a Victorian style. What would we call it? Would we call it a tableau? I suppose we would call it a tableau, wouldn't we? A Victorian style tableau. And I just love this deck of cards, right? This is my literary witches deck of cards. And it has lots of different famous female writers. And it also has some symbolic things in there as well. Let me have a look, see if I can find those. So, for example, you might have a writer like that. So, there we go. Focus is not going to be perfect in this either, so please shout at me if the focus is bad. And if my voice sounds terrible. There is Apple as well. I wonder who fits with Apple. But I don't know very many poems off by heart. Some of them I do know for Emily Dickinson. Big fan of Emily Dickinson. And this one is Emily Bronte, two Emilys. I don't know as much about Emily Bronte as I know about Charlotte Bronte. Now I do know a lot about Charlotte Bronte. Mary Shelley, Sappho, Virginia Woolf. Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? Who have we got here? Agatha Christie. Now I do know a little bit about Agatha Christie as well. So she's one potentially to talk about. Sylvia Plath. Do we talk about Sylvia Plath on Christmas Eve? I don't think so. Too sad, wouldn't it? Oh, there's a few people watching now. It would be lovely if you could drop me a little note and let me know if you can hear me okay. And if not, I can change to a headphone of some sort. So yes, Sylvia Plath, not today. Thank you very much. And we've got some of these here. Bees. I knew that was there. And we're going to put bees next to Emily Dickinson. Because, of course, Emily Dickinson, that beautiful poem that she wrote, one of the few that I have memorized, which is called It's All I Have to Bring Today. Very beautiful. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart besides, this in my heart and all the fields, and all the meadows wide. Be sure to count should I forget, someone the sum to tell. This and my heart, and all the bees which in the clover dwell. Emily Dickinson, well, she wrote to a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but for a long time he was an editor and he helped her with his writing, and he might have been the love of her life, and she exchanged hundreds of letters and poems with him. And she never met him, I don't think. It's a little sad, isn't it? That she never got to meet him. Introverted. Her eyes, she lost some sight in her eyes as well as she got older, which was a great source of pain as well to her, because she used to love wandering around the gardens and just observing the flowers. There was a poem that she wrote that had the phrase in, oh, I wish I could remember it, like a flash of cochineal. That was what she said. And people didn't really know what that poem was about. But then they found another. Oh, look at this. I almost didn't put this in shot. Look at that cute little lamp. Look at the size of it there. Yes, that's as big as... I've lost track a little bit there. What was I talking about? Oh, a flash of cochineal. Yeah. And so, let's put these here. Tap, tap, tap. Doing a little bit of ASMR, if I'm honest. It's less of a tarot card reading and more of a mini ASMR session, I think. Which is, someone just messaged me on my other phone. What does that say there? It sounds lovely. Audio seems fine to me. Thank you. Yes, perfect. There are going to be aeroplanes going overhead, I'm sure, and terrible things like that. But what can you do? She gives you a little bit of an insight into how many times I have to film or keep perfectly still. You know, I might just be doing a video and then I'll be like, oh, and then I don't as still as possible like that. And then once the airplane stops, if I'm in an uncomfortable position, it's even harder. Then I can come back in. And so I can cut it out and I can smooth cut it in so it doesn't seem as like jerky or whatever it is. You know what? I like to jump around a little bit, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read a little bit of The Night Before Christmas. It feels like a good time to do it. It's actually the original poem. It's called A Visit from St. Nicholas, Santa, and it was by Clement Clark Moore. It was from 1800s. So we go. It was the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes of St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. You know, I told you I like to jump around, and I'm just going to jump around a little bit here. I'm going to go back to not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. There's a poem by Robert Burns called Ode to a Mouse. And I don't remember exactly how it goes, but I remember the first bits, which was, "Oh, wee sleeketh, cowering, timorous beastie, what's the panic in thy breastie? Thy needn't out away so hasty with brickering brattle. I would be loath to run and chase thee with murderous prattle." I think is how it goes. Robbie Burns, the pride of Scotland. Some of my ancestors come from Scotland, although most of them are from Ireland. Which is, a lot of my family have Irish accents, and my accent, I'm not sure what it is anymore because of a lot of travelling. Some sort of northern, I don't know, American, I'm not sure. Not sure. Merry Christmas from Bobby Dragon. And Merry Christmas and Resident Sparrow. Yes, indeed, Merry Christmas, one and all. Emily Bronte. The Brontes had a very sad life. Their brother Branwell, he died quite young from alcohol and substances. And then Emily died of what was most likely consumption or cholera, or correct me if I'm wrong. And then Anne. Actually, there were two other Bronte sisters that are less well known who died when they were young as well, when they were at the school. Can't remember the name of the school. It was a school, I think it was in Bradford. And Charlotte Bronte based Jane Eyre on her experiences at this horrible school. And lots of children died there because of the disease, and there was no clean water and things like that. So Charlotte was the last one to survive. Yeah, goodness gracious, I'm really bringing this down, aren't I? Charlotte was the last one to survive. And then she got married to Arthur Bell Nichols. Not sure how happy that was, but she did die in childbirth. But, you know, if you like D&D, then you could argue that Emily Bronte and Charlotte Bronte invented D&D. And I'll tell you why. Because they used to write about this secret world called Gondia, and they would have little characters, and they would role play as these different characters, and they'd have histories. They even wrote little newspapers, tiny little newspapers, almost impossible to read. It was part of their world. So they sort of invented this role play stuff, and these were the actions, and they would decide what the results of things. They didn't roll dice. Didn't have dice. Maybe they did, but they didn't roll dice anyway. But I like to think of them as the modern version, the old-fashioned version of D&D. Sorry, Ireland's a beautiful country. Everyone should see it once. Lovely people too. Yes, that's very true. I did an Irish accent once. I was doing it for a night that an Irish chess night, and I wasn't sure if it was a good accent or not, but I just based it off my grandfather and my grandmother, how they sounded, and they sounded a little bit like that. They were from the more north side. Actually came in from travellers, actually, my family. And I think we can leave that there. Okay, Agatha Christie. I've done a few videos on Agatha Christie. I say I have done a few videos. It's the genius Hendrell who's pulled together some amazing videos on this. We did Murder on the Orient Express, and that was one of the best things I've ever done on Tinglesmith's channel. The Christmas Carol, I think that's the most appropriate one and the most timeless one that I've ever done, and that starred some amazingly talented people, including an ASM artist who doesn't do it anymore as well, Venaria. She's very talented, so it's nice to have captured a little bit of her magic before she left YouTube. So she plays Barbara Cratchit in it, and I'm just rambling, by the way. What I'm saying doesn't make any sense, I'm sure, but it's just sort of vague ramblings, just to say hello and to have a little bit of company, I guess. And this gives you a little bit of a taste of what it would be like to talk to me. You get a lot of old nonsense constantly, and I'm able to talk without break, often for several hours in a row. You know, it makes me think of Rod Serling. Do you remember Rod Serling? Twilight Zone. You're about to enter the Twilight Zone. He used to wear a suit, looked like a very, very 50s man. I don't know what a 50s man is, but he looked like a 50s man. That's probably the 60s. He used to smoke a lot. Always had a cigarette in his hand. Very cool voice. Anyway, he would talk a lot. He would talk an awful lot. And one time his family tested it, and they were on for a 3-hour drive, a road trip, and they said, don't talk, and just let's see if Rod notices that none of us are talking. And Rod Sterling, he spoke for 3 hours solid without any break, and didn't notice nobody was talking. So interesting. I'm sure I'm not that bad, but this glove here is from the video Dr. Copperhand. I've done a few different videos as Dr. Copperhand, and he's one of my favourite characters because I get to be a pretentious British type who's the Empire, Her Majesty and the Empire. We've got Queen Victoria here. You can't quite see her actually. Let's bring Her Majesty in. We can't just leave Her Majesty out of the shot, can we? There we go. that didn't really help. We'll just give you a quick look. There she is. Okay, there she goes back. Copperhand would be delighted by that. Very big royalist, even though she banished him multiple times for, well, incompetence. Yes, unfortunately, Copperhand is a little bit incompetent. So I love this deck. As I say, lots of different genius women who have written many, many books and didn't get the credit for them that they deserved in almost all cases. Now, I remember reading somewhere that for the longest time, anonymous meant that it was written by a woman. Quite sad thought. Okay, you know, I'm going to keep Emily Dickinson out because this video is brought to you by Emily Dickinson. She is our sponsor. So I will be reading more of her poems, I think, as we go. Let's tuck her in there. There you go. There she is. There. But I would like to show you some more cards that I have as well, which I have loads of different tarot cards. Actually, and my family did tarot card readings, were somewhat famous for it, and my grandmother and my mother. So I have loads of them. They just used to have normal ones, but I'm going to have to put some rings on for this. Rings on his fingers, bells on his toes. Look at that. Satanic. So, reason for the satanic rings is the occult tarot. I like this tarot because it looks so weird, and it's just so well done. Has these red edges to them. And each card has, a little bit, doesn't it? A demon on it. So, for example, this one here, it says Sabnok, and he represents the 5 of Swords. And on the description it says, builds high towers. So that's so far. For a demon, that's not too bad, is it? Building high towers, castles, and cities. I mean, this seems quite... I mean, not all castles, cities, and high towers are desirable, but so far, could be more demonic, couldn't it? Afflicts men for many days with wounds full of rot and maggots. Dear goodness, that escalated quickly. So, he's doing something rather nice, and then he's just does something very scary. Don't want to be too off-putting with these cards, but I'll show you the lovely red there. Look at that, the way it shines. Isn't that pretty? Amy. That's a weird name for a demon. Orias. Belial. Boone? Astaroth. Now, Astaroth sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds very Lovecraftian. Oh, the king in green. Astaroth. That's not what it's called. I can't read it through the screen. It says, he tells how angels fell, reveals the past, present, and future. Okay, and then the third thing he does is teaches the liberal science. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but that's sort of... Is that demonic? Is that sort of demonic? Do we think this is maybe Fox News' idea of demonic, maybe? Teaching the liberal science. Okay. Moloch. Oh my god, look at Moloch. Now, he is a famed demon, isn't he? Looks like a cow on a throne here. I could really increase the lighting. Makes one worse off than ever before. Surely that's all demons. Tricks mortals into being bound. Again, not ideal. Accepts child sacrifice. Goodness gracious. That these demons are very good at escalating quickly. They're sort of things like plants trees, is responsible for light breezes, and then patron of murder. Suddenly, like the third thing, just like takes you by surprise. Maybe that's their thing. Let's pick another one. Who's this thing? I'm not going to pick that one because I don't know how to pronounce that. But gap. Okay, let's have a look. Can cause love or hate. I suppose anyone can cause love or hate, can't they? Can make one ignorant and without sense. Delivers familiars from other magicians. And can move from one place to another. Like imagine that was your demon power. If someone said, hey, I can turn into like a fly and I can fly around, or I can make fire. What can you do? And he's like, oh yeah, I can move from one place to another. And people would be like, well, I mean, we can all do that. I mean, do you do it clever? Do you like teleport and stuff? And he's like, oh no, I just walk. I'm just scary. Well, this is not so scary. Look how cute this one is. Stolas. It's looks like a little owl with long legs. Oh, this is not good. Don't look at the 6666. That's a bit of a worry. It's the Page of Cups. Now, if you know about tarot, the Page of Cups is the weird one, the fantastical one. And let's look at Stolas. Teaches astronomy and the values of herbs and precious stones. Now, this is a nice demon. This is the sort of demon you want to be friends with. You could be walking around and you'd be like, oh, I noticed this precious stone on the ground, right next to this herb. Stolas, could you tell me more? And he'd be straight on it, wouldn't he? He'd be like, oh yes, yeah, well, that isn't a precious stone, actually, that's just a piece of brick. And the herb of which they speak is actually just a weed. It's a dandelion. You can make tea into it, from it. Just checking my phone here to see if there are any messages. Nope, still just the island. Okay, perfect. Let's have a look. Elagos, Malbas, Amuskas, and Vipar. Volokar. There's some scary ones in here. I'm going to put these to the side. And I'm going to get out another deck that I have, which I quite like, but I don't use it very often, which is the Woodland Gardens. And very cute. Not half as spooky as the demon deck. So we've got some really nice little cards in here. Look at this little rabbit. The Hare and the Oak. And it's new opportunities. So this is more of an oracle deck than a tarot card deck. The Porcupine and the Enemy. Anemone. That's about boundaries. Okay. Look at this little sheep. They sound like perfumes, don't they? The Sheep and the Blackberry. Devotion. Interesting. And then what do we have here? We have the Weasel and the Pine, which is introspection. 24 minutes. You know what I think I'm going to do now? If you guys aren't subscribed to Tinglesmith, that's my other channel. That's my bigger channel. I'm a little bit bigger than this one. I might go live there to say Merry Christmas to people across there. If you would join me, that would be delightful. I'm going to change the lighting slightly, so we've got a little bit of a better light. And then I'll go live on Tinglesmith, so there's less noise. And honestly, the first 20 minutes, I'll probably just say exactly everything I've just said. Because, well, it came out alright, I think. So you'll probably be bored if you do jump in for the next one. Let me take my demon rings off first. I mean, that would be unfortunate, wouldn't it? To start on my channel just with demon rings without context. Okay, let's see if it'll work on the other channel. Thank you, and you know what? Merry Christmas, everyone. And Yeah, see you on the other side. Right, how do I turn this thing off? Let's have a look. Do I literally just press the cross? Surely I don't just press the cross, do I? Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Okay,